Hello. So yes, before anybody gets confused, yes, it is really me. Don't wonder why that fat 12-year-old is yammering at you for 20-some minutes. So as you can see, my show has closed because I have shaved the beard. Don't worry, I am growing it back as quickly as humanly possible, but when my beard gets that long, the only way to get it back manageable is you gotta burn the forest down and start over again. So, just getting that out of the way. I'm sorry, I don't like this any more than you do, so trust me. It's The Rock and a giant monkey fighting a giant wolf and alligator. I don't know what the fuck you want from me. So this is one of those movies that's been getting kind of mixed reviews. You know, as little as I pay attention, I do kind of get some things. And it seems like people either really love it or really hate it. And, you know, as I'm sitting there, I think this is the best possible version of this film that you are going to get, quite frankly. It's always a problem, you know. We talked a little bit about it when I was doing the Tomb Raider review. But, you know, adapting a video game to a movie is a very difficult thing because, you know, you have really two options. Anything kind of from, you know, the PlayStation era forward tends to have too much plot because you can play a video game for, 80 hours or something like that. So something like Tomb Raider, the rebooted Tomb Raider games, they've got too much story because they got to just keep making up excuses to get you from one level to the next, you know. So that's where kind of Tomb Raider had its problems. This one goes the opposite way because, this is one of those fantastic arcade games. If you've never played Rampage, then your childhood sucked. All right? Because I have fond memories of playing this game in Pizza Huts and everything when I was a kid. Those games had no plot. It was you played as three giant monsters destroying a city. That was freaking it, and it was glorious. So that game has like no plot, and trying to adapt that into a movie, in a way, you're a lot freer because you can just come up with a story that kind of fits the overall premise of three giant monsters wrecking a city. And given that knowledge, I think this is the best possible version of that you were gonna get. Is it perfect? No, by no means. But I think it's smart enough to know what it is and delivers on its premise. And that, I think, is a great metaphor for The Rock, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's film career as a whole. He is smart enough to know what his niche is, and he fills it very well. He doesn't try to overshoot. He doesn't try to do things, that are above him. He knows what he is, and he knows, what he can accomplish, and he does it really well. And I think, here again, he plays a very charismatic, though it's kind of one of those things. I'm not saying that a scientist can't be, hugely jacked, but it's like, really, you're a primate specialist? It's like, no wonder the gorillas kind of go with you. You're about as big as one. Geez. But, The Rock is very charismatic, and, he can carry a film where he's spending, a majority of it playing off of, what I can only assume is a motion capture or nothing, So I think he can carry that. He's able to carry the film through. I think this film also does a good job with kind of the same thing that Kong Skull Island did, and that is it balanced enough emotional pathos so that you were connected to the story, but understood at its core it's a movie based on a video game where you play three giant monsters breaking up a city, and kept that element of fun to it. It knew what made kaiju movies, Godzilla movies, all these type of films work, and it said, okay, we're gonna go with that. and it does a really, really good job of it. So, I would say on the whole, the film is generally enjoyable. Once you get to the actual giant monster battles, the movie is really freaking incredible. And just a lot of fun. It's everything you kind of hoped it would be. You know, the special effects are pretty well done in it. And, you know, again, the human characters are engaging enough, and just enough of the broad kind of caricatures that they need to be to keep you engaged without usually going over the edge too much. Now, that isn't to say the movie's perfect. Like I say, once it gets to the giant monster battle, it's pretty freaking phenomenal. It feels like it took a while to get there, and it took a while with stuff we didn't care about, you know, characters we didn't necessarily care about, and, you know, an acting that was, you know, subpar at best, you know. So it takes a while to get there. You've got to really have the patience. If you've got the patience, then you're all good, because once it gets there, it's engaged. But you really got to kind of slog it out there for the first, hour or so. But that is the other thing I give them credit for, is that once it gets there, they're smart enough to know what you are there to see, and they don't pull that Godzilla shit of like keeping, they cut back to The Rock and, generic woman scientist number 32, to keep the story progressing. But they don't. They know enough to get back to the monsters as quickly as possible, so that you're seeing what you're seeing. So yeah, I guess it's a good time to talk about the other actors. So The Rock is The Rock. It's exactly what it says on the box. You know what you're getting. I don't know the name of the girl playing generic scientist lady number 42, but I mean she's okay. It's not great. It's not. She's a very bland character in a world of very big characters. And I think when you're bland in that world, it really sticks out. And I think this movie really followed the model of the old, those brilliant and wonderfully cheesy, monster features of the 50s and 60s. You had all the stereotypes and the caricatures in there, and there is always the one kind of dull character, because the female characters back in those days were the ones that would just stand and scream. So now trying to adapt that to a modern audience is a little harder. There's just not a lot that's phenomenal about her, or it stands out with her. So she's not bad. I don't want to give that impression, but she's just very bland, very dull. The other characters are really the guy, and I think he's the same guy who played the comedian in Watchmen. I think I have to look at IMDb. But the guy playing like this government agent, this very slow cowboy kind of, sauntering the wheel. You know what us cowboys say. He was really fun, and a nice kind of foil for The Rock there. And I think he brought a different kind of energy. He was very kind of slow and very kind of southern drawl and all this. It kind of reminded me of one of the characters out of Kingsman: The Golden Circle a little bit. But he was fun, and he like I say, when he came on, the energy was a lot different, because of course The Rock's a pro wrestler, so he's got very big crowd grabbing energy. Everything's very electric. That's why he's the most electrifying man in sports entertainment. But this guy's energy was just very slow and very meandering, and he wasn't in any kind of hurry, and it was neat. I liked that. But I think the MVP, acting-wise, of this movie is Marlon Ackerman, who is a very talented actor. I don't know if anybody knows her by name, but she's done a lot of stuff. I remember her as Dr. Valerie Flame on Children's Hospital and Silk Spectre from Watchmen. And she plays the villain. She plays the the head of the evil corporation, and she's really freaking good. And she is just like eating it alive. She is loving being so villainous, and I'm watching her going, man, we need to get her as the villain in a Bond movie or something where she can really let go, because she was a lot of fun. Like, and you can tell whenever she was on screen, she was just digging the hell out of it, And there was another guy who played her brother, and I didn't care about him. He was nothing. But she was really ruling the roost. And I mean, you've got to be good if you're going to play the villain in a movie, A, starring The Rock, and B, co-starring giant monsters tearing up Chicago. So your human villain is never going to be as threatening or as fun. But I think she really pulled it off. I really enjoyed her up there. And what was weird is that she's got brown hair here. I've always seen her with blonde. Except in watching her, she had the long brown wig. But so it took me forever to realize who it was. I actually did, I should have checked for everybody else, but I actually did check IMDb before I was at the theater going, who the hell was that? Because it was bugging the hell out of me. It was her, and she was fantastic. So the cast was having a lot of fun with it. The story is not, it's nothing spectacular. It's fucking, like I say, it's The Rock and a giant monkey fighting a giant wolf and an alligator. I mean, what the fuck else are you going to see? I really can't think of what else to say about this movie. I really can't, and I think that's okay. There's not much else to see it. I guess if you wanna rate it, I don't think it's as good as something like the original Pacific Rim or Kong Skull Island. I don't. It wasn't as engaging in the parts that weren't monster filled as those films were. But it's cut from that same cloth. And if you're like me, if you're somebody who was raised on the arcade game, so first of all, if you liked the arcade game as a kid, then I think you're going to enjoy this. It's as good a representation of it as you can get. And B, if you like giant monster movies like I do, if you're like me and you were raised on Godzilla and Gamera and all these big monster movies, I think this one is, it's a fun entry in the series, and it knows, again, it's smart enough to know what it is, know what it's trying to be, and it does it, and does it well. Or well enough, at least. I'm not going to say that it's perfect. So, yeah, I feel kind of weird because, I always like to talk longer, but I don't know what else to say about this one. I say if you want to have a good time, you want to go have, a good, 30, 40 minutes of action, go check this one out. If that's not your beef, then yeah, avoid it. So final grade on this one is tough. It's tough. I'm feeling generous. So I'm gonna say final grade on this one is a B-. I was gonna go C. Well, I was sitting there watching it. I was thinking it's a C film. And then, they really got into it, and the whole thing in Chicago started up, and it raised it up a bit. 'Cause it's like, yes, now I'm having fun. Now I'm really digging this film, and they do some creative things with the monsters. They have fun with the monsters, working together to tear up the city, then working against each other. The final battle is really fun and exciting. So it was able to get that grade up a bit. It's getting towards the end of the school year. Everyone's trying to get those grades up, so this one was able to bring it up. So B- on this one. A lot of fun. Not much else to talk about. So I hope you enjoyed it, and please join us next week, because next week it's one of the big ones, folks. We don't have a lot of really big movies this year, but it's one of the big ones. Next week we tackle the Avengers, the Infinity War. So until next time, drive safe, and I will see you at the movies.